G'day guys, it's Tim here. I hope everyone is having a fantastic week, and what we're talking about today is Bitcoin. So you're probably seeing a lot about Bitcoin at the moment. We're seeing people talking about how it's in a massive bubble, or we're seeing a lot of people talking about how it's going to be the next currency and the next great investment for people to get into. So being that we've been getting so many questions about this, I thought it'd be a really good idea to just jump on and do a quick Facebook Live, give people a little bit of the lowdown when it comes to Bitcoin. Also, a lot of people are wanting to find out, am I investing in Bitcoin, and whether they should be considering doing it as well. So before we get into the ins and outs in Bitcoin about what you should be doing about it, let's cover off a couple of things about it, because one of the biggest things that we're noticing out there is a lot of people, while they've heard about Bitcoin, or they've heard about these different kinds of crypto or digital currencies, a lot of people don't really know exactly what it is. So let's just cover off a couple of the basics first of all. So Bitcoin is a digital currency. Technically, it's what they call a cryptocurrency. No need probably to go into much more detail about that. Also, I just want to make sure that you guys can see that on the screen nice and clearly as well. So it's a digital currency. Okay, basically it got developed, we're talking 2008, 2009, 2010. It was developed by someone named Satoshi Nakamoto. Okay, now we don't actually know whether that's a person or not. It's a pseudonym. We don't know whether Satoshi Nakamoto is actually a made-up name for an individual, or whether it was actually a made-up name for a group of developers that developed Bitcoin, or this particular digital currency. The other thing to note about it as well is that this is just one kind of digital currency that's out there. There's literally now hundreds of different digital currencies that are available through the internet, okay? It is done through peer-to-peer banking, okay? So you don't need to have any central system or bank that this goes through. This operates on an open source network where everyone has access to see the different transactions, and actually everyone hosts the transactions as well. So if you're not really sure what I mean by that, do a little bit more research on what peer-to-peer means, and that'll explain it probably better than I can. IT is not exactly my strong point, okay? It's also maintained on a public ledger. Okay, so this is a public ledger that is maintained in this peer-to-peer database and is available and transparent for everyone to see. And this will actually come back when we talk about more specifically its characteristics, why that's a benefit. The system that it actually used to maintain this public database and this peer-to-peer network is called blockchain. Now, blockchain is a particular kind of software. The actual technical benefits of this, of blockchain in itself, are quite extraordinary. However, Bitcoin is something that utilises the software blockchain. Okay, now, so basically that's just to give you a couple of the basics about Bitcoin as we talk about it. Now, what are the characteristics of Bitcoin? So one of the great things, and we've already kind of mentioned this, is the fact that it's decentralized. You don't need to go through any particular bank or banking institution or central figure to handle this. So it means that a lot of transactions can be done on a much cheaper basis. You ever tried transferring money across the world? You know the fees through the banks can be pretty astronomical, okay? Like we said, it's global, okay? Not only that, but it's also fast, meaning that this is a system that operates in the digital atmosphere or the digital ether. It can be done across the globe. It can be done very, very fast, and of course, it can be done cheap. So there's certainly some benefits of utilising something like a digital currency. Okay, it's also transparent. So all of it, being that it's on a public ledger, all the records of all the transactions are kept on that public ledger so people can see. The other part about it though is, while it is transparent, it is completely anonymous. It doesn't take much to set up an account, to transfer, to buy Bitcoin, and you don't really need any particular do it. So anyone that wants to do this can just set up an account. We don't need any identification or anything along those lines. Okay, so there's some of the characteristics of Bitcoin. Okay, now that's to tell you a little bit more about it as a currency itself. Now, a lot of the people that have been coming to me have been saying, all right, well, there's been this meteoric rise in Bitcoin. It started off back in, like I said, 2008, 2009. It was worth less than $1. And now, well, back in September 2nd, it was trading for over US $5,000 for a particular Bitcoin. So there has been an absolutely meteoric rise when it comes to the value of a Bitcoin. This is what's generated a lot of the hype, and we're seeing it on all the news networks. We're seeing it, when I go through my Facebook feed, I'm seeing, 10 different people talking about, oh, do you want to trade Bitcoins? You should get involved. Here's a link, or do it through this place, or do it through that place, or here's someone that'll teach you how to do it. Okay, but when you're actually going to be considering anything in the investment, one of the first things that you should be looking at is always remembering that there are 3 different elements to any investment that you want to be considering if this is something you're going to look at. So, and this is whether we're talking about Bitcoin, whether we're talking about property, shares, super, all different forms of investment. So the 3 different things that we always want to be considering is capital growth, cash flow, and risk. Primarily, the big thing that's attracting people to Bitcoin at the moment is the capital growth. The thousands and thousands of percent return that it's gained since coming into existence. And of course, that's what's really attracting people. I mean, there's people that invested in Bitcoin very, very early on that are now multi-millionaires because they've done it, okay? So the capital growth is always the main thing that attracts people to any investment, okay? It also is the thing that tends to blind people when it comes to investment. Okay, cash flow, does it cost you anything per week to hold on to or buy? Now, obviously with things like property, it does. With something like Bitcoin, it's a neutral cash flow. The key, and this is the number one thing that I teach people, is that the key to actually being able to reach your financial goals is managing the risk, okay? Now, this is what people typically don't pay any attention to when it comes to investing. You know, if we cast this back to something like property, okay, people are always looking for, I want to buy the property that's going to be in the best suburb that's going to grow the most, okay? That, of course, is where, you know, this hype is coming up around Bitcoin. The fact that people, you know, could potentially get rich, like they're saying, well, in a very short period of time. Okay, so that's what is always pulling people towards those investments. But the other thing you've also got to balance is obviously the cash flow. But the key to making it in any form of investment is managing the risk. Okay, investing is all about exposing yourself to growth opportunities. But you've got to remember that the reason why you make money in an investment, or the reason why any investment has the potential to actually go up in value, is because by holding that investment, you're assuming the risk. So really the key, and the part that most people never pay any attention to when it comes to investing, is managing the risk, okay? So firstly, what are some of the risks that we've got to look at? And some of these benefits or the potential benefits of digital currencies like Bitcoin is actually where some of the risks exist, particularly from my point of view. So firstly, one of the biggest benefits is it's decentralized, okay? It gets money out of the hands of the powerful people and into the hands of the people themselves, okay? However, for me, this is a massive risk. You know, I mean, do we really think that the governments are going to allow this form of currency, or this, you know, for how long is it going to stay unregulated? For how long is it going to be before some of these powers start to get their fingers in it, right? So we've already seen this. We've seen some quite large drops in Bitcoin just over the past week or two. China is really basically coming down on Bitcoin as a currency. We've also seen, we've heard some murmurs from Russia that they're actually going to do something very, very similar. Now, of course, a lot of these governments are kind of behind the 8 ball because they didn't understand a lot about Bitcoin or digital currencies. Just like most people out there, they don't understand a lot about it. The more and more they're starting to understand about it, the more and more I think you're going to find that they're actually going to get their hands on it, okay? So for me, this is a risk that we want to keep. Anonymous, once again, this is another benefit that a lot of people will talk about. But there's a lot of illegal activity that's being done and handled by Bitcoin, okay? Once again, I think you're going to find that the government and the powers that be are going to utilise this as a reason to getting their hands on it, okay? Understanding. Now, most people, even people that I know that are investing in Bitcoin, really know not a great deal about it. Truth is, you know, apart from some of the basic stuff that I've gone through with you guys today, I don't know a lot about it, okay? So for me, this is a massive risk. One of the major rules in investing is don't invest in anything that you don't understand, okay? Now, for me, also the fact that I don't have a great deal of understanding around the technology, the IT side of things. The other thing that really worries me is I invest based on history. So, you know, for those of you out there, I don't gamble, okay? I hate losing money a lot more than I like winning it. Okay, I also know that whenever I'm going to be betting on, you know, whether it be sports betting, whether it be betting at the casino, betting on horses or anything along those lines, the odds are always rigged in the bookies, in the house's favour, okay? So you're already behind the 8 ball, okay? Now, when it comes to investing in something like Bitcoin, because there's not a lot of understanding about it, because there's not a lot of history behind it, you really have to associate it with putting money into that like you're gambling. And if you're going to be investing money that you can't afford to lose in something that we have such a limited amount of history and such a limited amount of understanding about, you should definitely not be doing that, okay? So that's what, and then the other thing is in terms of this as a technology. Now, Bitcoin was the first one that came out, okay? We've already seen a plethora of new digital currencies that are coming out, and we're going to continue to see that. Now, even if something does get taken on and adopted really globally through a lot of the banks and the governments and the regulators, then who's to say that it's going to be Bitcoin? Who's to say that also the technology that's been utilised to develop Bitcoin hasn't got flaws in it that aren't yet to be exposed, i.e. through hacking and things like that? Who's also to say that tomorrow someone doesn't develop something that's better? Okay, so one of the things that, one of the risks that I particularly look at when it comes to Bitcoin is about how the technology is going to impact that moving forward. Okay, so for me, I guess the question is this: am I investing in Bitcoin? Absolutely not. I've not put any of my money near it, and I'm not going to be putting any of my money near it. Should you be investing in it? Well, you and your money, you're free to do with your money what you want. My, I guess, advice to you would be this: if you are going to be investing in Bitcoin, I'm not saying there's not money to be made in it. There could be plenty of money, people that make plenty of money in it, okay? But it's, there's a lot of volatility in it, there's a lot of risk involved in it, and while there will be people that make a lot of money, I can also guarantee there's also going to be people that lose a lot of money in something like this as well. So if you've got money that you can afford to lose, and you're interested in it, feel free to invest in it, but I certainly won't be. The way that I've ensured my success, and not only in my investing, but the success of my clients, is by understanding economic cycles over the last 250 years, understanding where the cycle turns, how long the cycles move for, what stage of the cycle we're in. You know, a big part of cycles that we see, and as you guys know, economic cycles move in boom and bust fashions. Whenever they're in booms, moving into the busts, and you see corrections or you see bubbles, what's typically marked by those bubbles is people running around going, oh my God, you got to invest in it, you got to invest in it. You know, I know back in real estate, you know, back in Perth in 2007, 2008, everyone was running around with their hair on fire wanting to buy a house, okay? That always tells me, you know, when you're seeing this kind of hype around it, that you are in an overvalued situation, and you're going to see that come back to earth. Also, for those of you that are more, have been to some of our like full day events, know more about the economic cycles, we're moving into the mid-cycle slowdown, okay, which is going to be around about 2019. What the last mid-cycle slowdown that we saw was in 2001, where you saw a lot of tech, the dot-com bubble, okay, tech busts. It wouldn't surprise me, and you know, for those of you that have followed me, you'll know that what I'm saying is going to be the next bust around that 2019 is around the tech stocks, things like Uber. You know, I mean, you've got a $50 billion company that's losing $2 billion a year. I wonder how a lot of these tech stocks continue to hold those valuations, and I think more what you're really going to see is a correction in things like that. It really does fit the economic cycle that Bitcoin would also be something that fits into this, okay? And I wouldn't be surprised if we see massive devaluation in Bitcoin around the mid-cycle slowdown. So, look, you know, if people have got more specific questions about it, please throw them in down in the comment box, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Look, this is obviously a very short video talking about a pretty massive phenomenon. So, you know, I hope that gives you some sort of a sense of, if you don't know what Bitcoin is, what it is, what the characteristics are of it, and whether or not I'll be investing in it, and whether or not maybe you should be investing in it as well. Okay, hope that's been informative for you guys. Comments, questions, feedback. We'd love to hear what you loved about this, what you didn't like about it, or what you want me to talk about next. Put them down in the comments. Like I said, if you haven't been to one of our events and you are, you know, you're committed to being financially successful, then you've got to get some financial literacy, right? So make sure you get along to one of our workshops soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night. We'll look forward to speaking to you soon.